Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back once again to the VoV Network, where great things are always happening. My name is Brian Murray. I'm one of the co-founders here at the VoV Network. I'm joined this morning by my partner in crime, Mina. Say hello to everybody.
Aloha. No, I should be saying hola this morning.
Hola. That's right.
Hola.
You're traveling this week, so
Yes.
you're out seeing the world, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So everyone, welcome. Our topic for today, we're going to really get into something I think is going to be interesting and provide a lot of value for those of you who are going to be joining. And it's going to be focused on being careful what you consume, and that's really talking about a few different things. So life in moderation is going to be parts of it. We're also going to be discussing a little bit about self fulfillment, kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, because sometimes you think about that whole be careful what you wish for, and a lot of that sometimes can be driven by your attitudes, the different things that you take in your life, and then how that actually plays out in life based on how you frame and set yourself up. So we're really going to dive deep into that today. That's what it's going to be all about. Mina, what do you want to share really quick before we get into it?
I really think this is a good topic because sometimes we can get a little extreme from one side to the other and have a hard time remaining balanced.
Hmm.
So I think this would be a great thing we're going to talk about.
Yep, I could not agree more. So that's going to be our focus for today. Thank everyone who is joining us live. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it.
Let's go.
Well, welcome back. All right. So, if this is your first time joining us here at the VOV Network, our primary mission and our focus is helping you find better ways, give you some insight, inspiration, and different ideas to help you be able to cultivate, enhance, and maintain all of the most important relationships in your life. And that's however that plays out for you. So, what we share today, take it with a grain of salt, but also use it as a tool to kind of create some self awareness, and maybe it'll point you in a new direction that'll make a big difference in your life. And that's what we're about, is just trying to give you those options and different ways to do that. So let's dive into it a little bit, Mina. This topic kind of brew out of another thing that we did recently when we were
Yeah.
talking about life with purpose and intent, which is one of
Right.
the other videos we recently done. So in that, we were, just talking about, okay, life with purpose, life with intent. What's that all about? And as we dug through it, one of the things that kind of came to the surface was kind of identifying the fact that, hey, um, what can I do to better set myself up for self fulfillment, self satisfaction, and that kind of thing. And also in a previous episode, I can't remember which one it was, we really got into talking about what you consume. And
Right.
obviously, the first thing that pops to mind when someone says consume, you think food. And yes, that
Right.
is part of the
That is part
conversation.
of it. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But what we really wanted to focus in on is the other things that you take in. And when I say take in, that's literally whether you're consuming it off of social media, or the internet in general, or too much Fox News. I mean, because you get consumed by, and it just kind of captures you. And what I think a lot of people don't realize is there is a physiological reaction that kind of happens when you overindulge in anything. So your mind space, your body, your energy,
Yeah.
all of that can be transformed or transcended in some ways to put you in a kind of a framework that can be detrimental to you, and sometimes you don't even realize it. It's not quite as bad as an addiction per se, but it's going down kind of that same road.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. And I would say it could even be the energy around your friends or your group.
Hmm.
It could be that too. I mean, you could be around a bunch of negative Nancys, right? Like I like to say, and I'm sorry anybody named Nancy. Sorry, I use Nancy, but you could be around a bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
And having that negative, angry energy all the time around them can rub off on you, and there you are with your energy, and that's not satisfying
No,
to be
not
that
at
way.
all.
Maybe in the moment, really,
Correct.
even
Maybe
right,
in the moment it might be, but like I said, the thing you have to start to be aware of is how it can actually start to change who you are,
right.
especially when you start to get into kind of a more negative mind space, and you can't figure out where the driver is, right?
Right.
And it can be coming from, just simple overindulgence,
Right.
and whatever that might be, that's starting to have some kind of negative impact on you. So
Mhm.
being aware, being conscious,
Right.
taking that moment to start to assess and process through, man, why am I so edgy?
Mm.
What's driving that? What's behind
Mhm.
that?
Yeah.
And that's just really one of the things we wanted to bring up and talk about.
And I could say I was in the, area where we were having breakfast.
Hmm.
Even yesterday morning, I was having breakfast, and I was by myself having breakfast. And I noticed I was really paying particular attention to the area, and I don't it wasn't because of this video, but I really noticed the energy in the room, and there were certain tables I could see the energy was different,
Hmm.
and that there was one in particular that was, near me, and it was so negative, and it was a gaggle of women cackling, and it
Hmm.
was really negative, and, but after a little while, we started talking, and, um, they didn't even get the full, explanation of all the benefits that are here and everything for them and everything. So I was kind of telling them about what was going on, and, kind of softened them a little bit, and they're like,
Hmm.
"Oh wow, we didn't know," and just kind of giving them some information to help them out a little bit. But it was so negative. But we're all on vacation. This is,
Hmm.
supposed to be light, and you're supposed to be happy, having a good time. So
Yep.
I'm just saying, when you allow yourself to get in that negative space and stay in it, it's not satisfying.
It is it's not satisfying, and it can have impacts on you from a health standpoint,
Right, right,
you
right.
know, um, emotional health as well as physical health, right?
Mhm.
Can really be compromised, and to a degree, at some point, even mental health can start
Right,
to come into question
right.
when you really take yourself down that rabbit hole too far of being
Mhm.
too negative, over consuming, whatever it is that you might be
Yeah,
latching on to,
yeah.
and letting that start to, in some ways, kind of control your behaviors, right?
Mhm. And
Uh,
I would
Go
even
ahead.
say it probably starts with the mental and goes physical, but it could be both at the same time.
Hmm.
But, yeah, I would
Yeah,
say that.
yeah, yeah. I absolutely agree. And I look at it just from the standpoint. I think I made a comment in one of our recent live streams we were doing, and I said, be careful what you consume
Mhm.
because it actually uh, can eat at you from the inside out,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And that's really what we're talking about today. If you are consuming things that long term are going to start to kind of fester and start to change and then work you from the inside out, all
Right.
of a sudden the disposition that you have that you're putting out is and can be get to a very bad place, and you
Mhm.
not even realize
Right.
why or what's causing it. And again, it's because you're maybe taking in what you shouldn't take in.
Right.
Um, One of the terms too I want to throw out there when we're talking about this is extremes, you know,
Right.
and from the standpoint of what extremes can or mean, or what the types of impacts that you have when there are extremes. Uh, and you hear people that these adrenaline junkies, and they like to do extreme sports and that kind of thing. And yeah, I understand that that may be something you're into, but even in that, there needs to be some type of, I think, moderation
Right.
so that you have a little bit more balance with what's going on in your life, right?
Right. That you don't stay in that state always.
Correct. Right.
Right.
Because that has to be, um, I think, on the body, a hard place to be.
Right.
I mean, you see these guys and they're pounding, those monster energy drinks and stuff like that. And, I mean, I have some friends that are drinking 5 or 6 of those things a day.
Right.
And it's like, how can you be that hyped up and that
Right.
amped all the time? Is
Mhm.
that a good thing for you? So using that as an example, I think that applies across the board to a lot of different things in your life that you have to be careful of, um, how you go about doing that. So extremes, uh, it can be a detriment to you. And then one thing I do want to do, if for those of you who are joining us live, we have a live chat happening. So if you do have a comment and you want to uh, share that with us, please do so. And it hopefully will show here on the screen so we can all see the different comments that come in. And then it may or may not show your name. So if you're willing to share either what your name is, or at least maybe where in the country you're chiming in from, we'd love to hear that too. Right.
right.
So, I mean,
So,
what else?
what are
What
the
else do you have on your
comments?
list?
What are the
Go ahead.
comments from this article I'm looking at from strongmamas
Hmm.
.com, strong-mamas.com? It says that well-balanced individuals don't dabble with extremes, whether physical or mental.
Hmm.
So, you know, there's that middle balance that that would be like perfect for you. But you kind of find out what's enough and what's not enough.
Right.
Kind of
Right.
staying on balance with that. But
Hmm.
yeah, you try not to dabble in the extremes.
Yeah.
But
And it's the extremes, and then it's just over. And then when I say over, that's over anything, right? So
yeah,
overeating,
yeah,
over drinking, over exercise,
yeah, yeah,
whatever you find yourself really getting into,
right,
finding a way to kind of maybe pull back on some of that
hmm,
so that you're not overindulging,
right,
over consuming, um, because again, that can start to have its impacts on your disposition, your personality, and just your
hmm,
general health in many
absolutely.
different ways. Yeah.
It's the perfect balance between careful and careless.
Mhm. It
So
is.
maybe on this day, I'm careless today,
Yeah.
but it's my goal to be, that have that balance between the two.
Right.
Right.
And that's the thing. We're not trying to be your mom and dad.
Although I'm on Strong Mamas.
That's not what we're trying to do here. And we're not saying that, that you can't do some extreme things at different times, because that's living. Live your life, and enjoy your life. So we're not saying don't do that, but understand that going at 100 miles an hour
Yes.
all the time is can be detrimental to you. And
Right.
it's interesting because society kind of talks to you about work hard, right?
Play hard.
And play hard, right? Right, and that's the other side of the coin, but we get so caught up sometimes in, we just head down, nose to the grindstone, work, 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 that we don't actually take the time to step back and play and relax, and sometimes I think it's more important to actually relax and decompress
It
than
is.
it is to play hard, because if there's a you almost wanna think of it, I think, like a three-legged stool. You're working hard, you have playing hard, but you also have just be still, relax, decompress. Take some self time to just recharge and rejuvenate, where you're not on that treadmill, whether it's the treadmill of playing or the treadmill of working hard. I think it's important that you have kind of split your life between those three things, right?
Yeah, like I
Because
said on the last video, if you don't, your body will show you.
oh yeah,
It will take over.
you will be surprised, because you wonder why, as you said, from a health standpoint, why you always have headaches, or why your stomach is always in a knot, or whatever else it might be, and it
Stop
could,
flinching.
yeah, it could be because of the way you're going about living life
Right.
to the extremes, and not taking the time to either play a little bit or just totally do nothing,
Right.
because you need that recharge time as well. I think that's very important. Um, it's also interesting how, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's society kind of puts it on us, um, but it's almost like it's either all, some, or none, right? And then
Yeah.
those are the three categories.
Right.
And
All from or
for
none.
whatever reason, society is like you have to always want all, right?
All or none.
Right. But you have to understand there's a middle ground in there, and that's the sum, right? That,
Yeah.
that that's the balance piece of it, where you really want to try to get to, because when you're out of balance, it starts to impact your relationships, and that's family, spouse, significant other, children, work. I mean, everywhere, because you're out of balance, right? And I think one of the things, meaning you bring up a lot, is you're not being your true self,
Mhm.
right? Because you're out of balance. You're not being your best self, right? And so that's another piece of it that we wanted to talk about and bring up here too. Is this is some rules and some ways and some guidelines to help you be your best self, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's important that we also realize that too.
Right. So how do we
Um,
apply it?
well, and that's the thing. I, I, I think one of the things that self fulfillment, for example, I think is
Mhm.
a piece of this, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because we chase so much. We're chasing, 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 trying to feel that thing. I'm satisfied. I'm self
Mhm.
fulfilled, right? So
Right.
that energy that we're putting into that. Um, and one of the things that I want to go back to is just say, from a self fulfillment standpoint,
Mhm.
stop looking for it from the outside.
Right.
You know, self fulfillment. The key is the first word in the statement
Self.
is self, right?
Right.
So if you're looking for validation, if you're looking for fulfillment in other people and material things, status, all those kinds of things, you're looking in the wrong place to begin with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think step one of how you go about doing this is to stop and ask yourself that question.
Right.
Is what's driving me,
Yeah. What are your
self fulfillment?
goals?
Yeah. What are
Mhm.
your goals? Am I feeling self fulfilled?
Mhm.
What will make me self fulfilled? And
Yep.
again, start to look at the internal pieces of what that's all about, not the external pieces
Right.
of what that's all about. Right.
Right. What it's gonna take for you or what it's gonna require for you to achieve those goals.
Hmm.
Looking at that, what's important in that way, and determine what kind of wiggle room you have within
Hmm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. And
Your goals.
part of it that's still, and that all ties back to the overarching point today of careful what you consume.
Right.
Stop spending the 10 hours a day on social media. Spend 2 hours a day on social media. Definitely watch us, of course, right? Because that's important. Uh,
Make that
and
one of your hours, right?
that's one of the hours.
You might
Dedicate
need
that
a
hour.
few more hours.
Yeah. But then take that other time and start to do other things that are more fulfilling to yourself, that you're gonna get a better bang for the buck out of, because that's all part of the consumption process, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's, binging on a TV show, which we can all be guilty of, but is that really the best, most productive use of time? Mm, I don't know.
Depends on what
There
you're doing with the other time.
That's true, right? Because maybe that's your decompressed time. For some
Mhm.
people, that's what that is, and so that's the third leg in the stool for them, is
Yeah.
because that's their decompressed time. So that's okay, but taking the time to actually assess that that is how you're applying it, that's how you're using it, because it puts you in the space of just being mindless and enjoying your show, then that's good. That's a good thing, right? That gives you some additional balance in your life.
I'm a
But if
little
you
I'm a little confused on the stool.
oh,
Okay, third leg of the stool. What's the stool again? Explain the stool again.
see, that's because your mind is in the wrong place.
No, I promise you, I was not there
Whatever.
this time.
We're not going back there. So the three-legged stool is what I was
I'm
talking about
confused.
a while ago, that you need to try to have balance in your life. And that's what we were saying, all or
Oh, the
none.
stool is balanced.
Right.
Got it.
Because
Okay.
you can't have a two-legged stool. It's gonna fall over. You
Yeah,
need it.
yeah,
You at
yeah.
least
Get it.
so the third leg of it was
Yeah.
the quiet time, to be still. Right. So
Yeah.
there's either doing, which is working hard, which is what I talked about,
Yeah.
playing hard,
Yeah.
and then
Then the
being still.
right.
Got it.
Got
That's the three-legged stool I'm
it.
talking about.
I
Right.
got it. I was not going there yet.
All
Maybe
right.
it's for later.
So then, one another thing I think you can do is, and a lot of times from a self-assessment, self-development standpoint, just writing things down, because we've talked about
Oh,
that a
I
lot.
see.
Journaling or just taking a list. So
Mhm,
from a habits standpoint, because we're all different, we all have our different habits.
mhm,
Taking the time to actually write down, what are your work habits
mhm,
and what are your play habits? What are the things that you see as your, recreational time? Are you then, as part of that, is there some self-care time?
right,
Um, where you're getting a chance to uh, get a massage, so you can relax and be de-stressed. Get to yoga, whatever it is for you that works to help kind of de-stress you and calm and relax. And then look at that list and then start to see, wow, way work is like way up here and the rest of it's way down here. Then guess what? You're kind of out of
Right.
balance, right? You got to try to get the scales a little bit more level.
Yeah. And
So
then
I think
there's also knowing when something is too much, right?
correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Whether it's eating, TV, internet, whatever it is,
whatever it is,
drinking,
drinking. Yeah,
partying, whatever it is, knowing when it's too much, when it's affecting your life in a negative way, you know it's too much.
yeah,
You need to ease up off of it.
yeah. Because as I said, you're taking it in. So the consume word can be used in both ways.
Yeah,
You are consuming it, but it's also consuming you.
right.
If- You know, so that's what you have to be aware of is that
Hmm.
consumption that you're going through.
Hmm.
Actually, you take it in, but it's also at the same time consuming
Yeah.
you as a person and as an individual. So it starts to impact just how you think, how you feel, your total disposition. So being cautious of that, I think, is a very very important thing.
Hmm. And it could be something as simple as working out.
It could be,
Hmm.
and that's the thing is, we're not saying don't work out,
Mm,
but don't overindulge
right.
in that either, because with what is in it, endorphins and the adrenaline and all of the things that you get from working out, and
Right.
then
That's
you put
positive.
yourself in a state physically
Mm,
and mentally where if you don't have it, then you kind
right.
of you feel depressed, right?
Right.
Because you're not feeding that.
Hmm.
So you're figuring out a way to maybe bring that down a little bit so you're a little bit more in balance and you don't have to have that because it you know because I have some friends that are that way. They're so consumed with, I have to work out twice a day, every day.
Wow.
And if they miss a day, it stresses them to no end because not everything is just out of balance, right?
Right.
So working to figure out what's going to be the most productive way to go about your day to day and have some of the productive pieces, some of the truly just sit on the couch and relax and let your mind wander pieces. And then also obviously taking time to just do things for self from a
Right.
self-care standpoint. You've got to balance that out somehow.
Yeah. Including the working out because you need to work out.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Right.
And we're
Yeah.
talking about working out.
Yeah, and working out, like I said, filters back to just general overall health,
Right. Right.
right? So yeah, you do need to get some exercise because
Yeah.
that matters. Your diet, what you consume, is such an important piece of how you are and your health and your disposition and everything else are tied to
Hmm.
diet, and how you eat, when you eat. All of that matters. And I know you were just talking a little bit earlier when we were just kind of prepping for this, and you were saying one of the best things about the place you're staying is they have healthy food choices, you know,
Yeah.
which has made a real difference in your trip. You've
Yeah.
enjoyed it more because
Yeah.
you have the option to do the fat steak if you want to, which is not the
Yeah.
best thing, but you also have
Which I wouldn't do.
the health,
But yeah.
healthy options that are there for
Yeah.
you as well. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. I love
knowing
that.
that, yeah, knowing you need that is an important thing,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What else? What else is on your list that you have
Well,
going on?
on that, along that lines, it's doing things, knowing that you're when it's not enough. So you know that it's too much, but then there's also the knowing that it's not enough. So yeah,
Hmm.
you need to work out or eat more vegetables or take a break because you're going at it too. You haven't taken enough rest or relaxation or getting away. You're just going, so doing that because you haven't done it enough.
Right.
So
Right.
just there's that, and then um, always maintaining a vision of the big picture, the big perspective. Um, knowing, like for instance, knowing six tortilla chips will not stop you from moving forward, and neither will a bowl of ice cream. Like if you had like a food issue you were dealing with, right?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
can eat that. and still be moving forward, right?
Correct.
And doing the positive. But um and not beating yourself up. I always say don't beat yourself up. Don't ever beat yourself up.
Right.
Forgive yourself
Right.
and move on.
Move on. And and I want to follow that by saying another piece that you need to start people should embrace as far as self-fulfillment and some other things is joy and satisfaction. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with, as you said, appreciating the success, the joy that something brings you. Hey, if it's a bowl of ice cream and you're like, man, this is good.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Revel in that moment. That's your
Mhm.
joy. That's your satisfaction. But that's because that's why you go to the gym,
Right.
and do the extra 10 sit-ups or run the extra 10 minutes on the treadmill,
Yeah.
whatever it is, so that you can have those moments of joy and
Yeah.
satisfaction. But again, it's all balance and it's all moderation.
I
And
got
that's
here Tuesday,
mhm.
and since I left home, and I left home on Monday, but since I left home, I haven't had any desserts.
Really?
So I got here on Tuesday, right? And I've just been the food is just fabulous. So I just been enjoying the food anyway. But
Mhm.
last night I decided finally to have desserts, and they were like little miniatures. I had three of them. They were beautiful and they were so good and definitely satisfying. I loved them.
Yeah.
But, I didn't feel guilty about it, because it was in moderation. I haven't had it. And the thing is, I have had alcohol. So that's another reason why I haven't had desserts because alcohol, the sugar, and all that. So,
Right. Right.
yeah. So I'm not doing both.
And
But yeah, yeah, yeah,
perfect example of
yeah,
what we talk about moderation, right? I mean,
yeah,
that is a perfect example of understanding, I'm okay, I'm here, I'm vacationing, so I'm probably maybe having one or two more drinks than I normally would, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then understanding, okay, that's sugar. Your body converts all of that to sugar. So it's like, well,
yeah.
then if I'm going to do X, then I need to not also do
I
Y.
also do the dessert, but the desserts are amazing. Oh man, beautiful. But I just walk by them because
Yeah,
I'm eating food and there's alcohol like crazy, like everywhere have a drink, have a drink, have a drink. I mean, I'm not drinking every time I see it, but it's everywhere and
it's
it's
everywhere.
party party central.
Right. Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway,
Which again, moderation, right? We're not saying don't party,
moderation.
and enjoy your life. We
Yeah,
want you
have a
to
great trip.
enjoy your trip. We want you to live your life, but
Yeah,
just think about try to keep things balanced, keep the
right,
perspective of moderation.
right.
Um,
My
one of the
health.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's very interesting. Just trying to keep all of that kind of tied together. And I think the thing that people just don't do is actually take a moment to assess it, right? And
right,
that's why we wanted to talk about this. And
right.
that's kind of where
Good
this
point.
idea came from is just to say, hey, be aware, process through it, assess, you know, what it is that you are doing in your life, and
Yeah,
then how is that then playing out in your life, right?
yeah,
The one thing I do want to go back to, you mentioned it kind of when we first came on about consuming, and you said people.
right,
And so I want to go back to that because that's also very important. The people that are in your life, right?
right.
Some of them have an impact on you based on what they bring to the table.
Mm,
So being able to realize that and why maybe we have a certain interaction with certain individuals that you come away from it with this attitude or just negativity or
right,
whatever it is you put in it. But if you're not conscious and paying attention to those things, you kind of get stuck with it, right?
right.
And when now that you've processed that and go, oh, you know what, every time I get around Sally, man, I leave that and I'm just anxious and upset and agitated and well, maybe you need to not be around Sally,
Well,
right?
that leads into the next point of constantly asking yourself, how is this working for me? Like,
Hmm.
assessing it, like you said, how is this working for me? So if you notice that, then okay, well, maybe I need to work some breaks into that.
Right.
Maybe, I limit my time or, I know, okay, like I talk about sometimes being an introvert and
Hmm.
spending time around a lot of energy. it's draining, and I need to get back to my space, right, by myself, right?
Right.
So, and the pandemic has made it worse because I spend a lot of time by myself.
Mhm.
So it's very comfortable to be just do that, right?
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, assessing how's it working for me. That's
Mhm.
important. And I was going to say, Trish did say something about and no gym time
Yeah.
that she's been experiencing that with the food, right? Was it the
Right.
food or
Right.
the yeah, and
Yeah.
no gym time? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That and
Well,
that would contribute to overconsumption, right?
overconsumption, right? And this is the thing I want to get back to with all of this too. It impacts how you feel about self
Right,
because you're having a good time, you're eating too much food, you're having too many drinks, and which is ends up starting to have you kind of go, oh man, I haven't gotten to the gym. So you start getting down on yourself,
right,
because you know you should be doing these other things, but you because you're over consuming it in one area, you're working too hard, you're doing too much of this, you can't seem to work it into your schedule and the time.
right.
So then you start getting this into this mindset of I'm kind of it almost depresses you because
Yeah,
you know you should be doing something more or something different, but you're not for whatever the reasons might be. And I think that's a key to also really start to plot and plan out how
right.
you spend your time, how you spend your days, where
Tracking it.
are the priorities, right? And try to
Mhm.
focus in on those things. Another piece of it too is to shorten the list. I think is important.
Yeah,
So, because
yeah.
we start writing things down, and before you know it, there's 25 things on the
Right.
list. No can, as we say, no can.
Or like
Is it
when you say you're gonna work out every single day of the week, and you
right?
know you're not gonna do every
You
single
do it.
day of the
You
week.
said are you setting
You know?
yourself up for failure right out of the gate? Right,
Yes,
right,
yes, it's too
right.
much. For
It's too much.
me, it's
Right.
too
Uh,
much.
For some
But
people,
3
maybe they
days,
need that, but
maybe?
3 days, 4
Yeah,
days, yeah,
yeah,
every other day,
yeah.
something more realistic that you can
Anytime I can
manage.
get up.
And then, as you said, the most important piece of it is the day you can't do it or the day you miss 3 days,
Yeah,
forgive yourself,
and move on.
get up, and get back on it. Don't
Right,
don't don't be
right,
down on yourself because that
right.
all it's gonna do is start to kind of put you into a tailspin, right? Which is counterproductive when you look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and remember that balance and moderation means something different to everybody.
right.
It's not the same for everybody.
Yeah,
So, just remember that.
yeah, yeah. And then I'm glad you brought that in because I want to tie back to what we're all about, and that's relationships, right?
Yeah.
So understanding that in a relationship, when you have your significant other, that what they need from a balance and moderation standpoint might be different from what you need from a balance and moderation
Yeah.
standpoint.
Yeah.
So understanding that, having those conversations, talking about that, so that now you both can understand and know and respect.
Mm.
Maybe they need that quality time, like you talk about, where you need to just sit back and just be
Yes.
me
That
in a
space.
corner. Yeah, that space, right?
Yeah, that
And
space.
your significant other needs to realize and understand you're not upset with them.
Right.
That's it's nothing like that. You just need that time and that space. So that's also part of this too, especially within a relationship, understanding that it's not always going to be a balance between the two of you as to what's the most important things on your list,
Right.
right? But being respectful of that, having knowledge of that, and allowing each individual to be that individual, and
Mhm.
so they can get what they need to maintain their individual personal balance, I think is important.
But then that also goes back to communication. You know, that word we don't like to use all the time. It goes
What
back
word is
to
that? What? The C word.
communication, the C word.
I want to talk about that.
Because if that was me and that's how I am, then I really need to communicate that to my partner. They need to
Right.
know that I'm that person because otherwise that other person is like, what the heck is wrong with them?
What? You
Why
mean
you acting funny? You acting funny, you know?
right.
But it's
Yeah.
really not even about that, right?
Because he's walking around going, "Did I do something? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why?" But
Oh,
which is
what's
not the
wrong with
case at
you,
all.
girl?
Right.
Nothing. I
So
just need my
communicating it is
space.
important,
Mhm.
and we talked about this in one of our previous sessions about we're not mind readers at
No,
all, right?
no,
So
but you
unless
should know.
you right, but you have to share it for us to know. I can't read your mind, right? And that's a two-way street.
Yeah,
So as a man, it's the ball game is on, right? And it's like yeah, well, and this is what always happens. You hear the story, so the wife comes and stands in front of the television right in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. We need to talk, and it's like, okay, listen, seriously. I mean, yes, we probably do need to talk, but do
wait.
we really need to talk like right now? Because there's like 2 minutes left in the game, and you're in the way. so, so understanding that for that individual, and it's not saying she's not important, the relationship's not important, but that's obviously something that's important to that individual on
Yeah,
whatever side it is in a relationship, right? So just trying to be respectful of that and understanding that that 2 minutes will be over in 10 minutes, and
yeah.
then you know
Because if you miss it, it's not going to, you can watch it on replay, but if you miss it, you won't see it at the time it happened in a
yeah,
half hour. You want to see it when it happens.
well,
I'm just saying, I understand how people feel that are watching sports and they want to see it when it happens. But
yeah, yeah. So I just use that as an example to say, yeah, that uh, communicate,
yeah,
communicate, but also understand and try to be respectful of the other we boundaries, right?
yeah. Hmm.
Because even within the relationship, there are going to be boundaries, and so understanding what that person's boundaries are, and
Yeah.
showing some respect for that's also going to be part of this whole self fulfillment thing, right?
Did we
And that's
even know that VoV would even go here? Like, as we start talking about subjects, we're always going back to another video. Like, they just keep popping up, right?
right,
The
right.
information from our other videos. But
It does
I know
because
we
the
wouldn't.
links and how things tie together,
Right,
it just makes perfect sense
right.
from a logical thought, thinking things through.
Yeah,
What's really going to make the difference in your life and in your relationships? Are the things that we're sharing and what we're talking about. Um,
yeah. We should do boundaries on Tuesday for an encore.
I think it's a good idea because
Yeah,
I think
since we
I
keep
think
bringing it
boundaries
up.
is one of the things that people still struggle to understand a what it really means,
Yeah,
and then b how to set and
yeah.
the term is enforce that
Right,
you actually need to enforce your
right.
boundaries, right?
Yes,
And
pull that back up.
that's not a negative thing.
No,
Enforcing your boundaries is not a negative thing,
uh-uh.
right? Setting
No,
boundaries is not a negative thing,
no.
and
It's your
you know
right.
it is your right, and it's self-care, it's self-fulfillment,
Hmm.
it feeds your self-esteem and many other things that all
Right,
tied into having the proper boundaries. So
right.
all part of what we're saying today that
Mhm.
matter.
Mhm.
So I think the key word, like we were saying, is from a balance and moderation. Moderation basically means not all, not none, but some. And trying to find what that sweet spot is in the middle of keeping things balanced in your
Right,
life.
right.
Now, the best line that I read regarding moderation is it says, moderation in all things, dot, 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 even moderation. So you go, whoa. So that's important because basically you're saying, yes, you need to be, moderate in what you do and be aware of that. But even in your moderation, be moderate, right? So don't over moderate yourself too, because you need to still live your life and enjoy your life. So that's if there's a message I would like everyone to really take away from this today is yes, live a life of moderation, but don't over moderate your moderation, right? Which that's when things start to get bland or things start to get boring.
Yeah.
And then I don't we are adults, but I think all of us can kind of in some ways relate that we still have an inner child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Don't act like you don't. And and what do children do when they feel like things are bored and you know
Rebel.
they rebel, they act out, right?
Uh-huh.
They throw a tantrum.
Uh-huh.
So if you start to over moderate yourself, that's when you're gonna react to it in a way that's just out of control, right? It's
Yeah.
like overindulge in whatever it's going to be to try to compensate for you feeling like, oh, this is too boring, or this is not exciting enough, or this type of thing. So, in your moderation, be moderate when you do it. Uh, I think is a very important key to
I'm having 5 of those desserts
it.
and 2 glasses of wine with dinner.
Wow,
I over over
that's your overcompensating for the last 4
Yeah.
days.
Really? Did you go there? Really?
What, you said you didn't eat anything for the last 4 days, so now you're just gonna
Okay. Next. Okay. The last point on there that I didn't bring up was being able to say sure, but just a little. So it goes along with that whole moderation with being moderate, but not
Yeah,
over moderate.
right,
Yeah, being able to say, okay, yeah, I'm
yeah,
still going to have it. I'm still going to do it,
but
whatever it is.
right,
But you know,
just a little.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
I'm gonna do it today, but I'm not gonna do it the next 5 days.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
that's correct. That is absolutely right.
yeah.
So, like I said, I think we've kind of really shared what it is we wanted to get out there about. Careful what you consume because you are consuming it, but it's also consuming you. And so, understanding that, so taking in the wrong things, the negative things, too much of anything can be a detriment to you. So, understanding and being aware of that. Just having your antenna up and your radar on so that you know that that's going on, and then yeah, exactly, and applies to people. We
Certainly
get
does.
it absolutely does. So being careful, that social circle, whatever it might be, moderate how much time maybe you spend with those certain people who take you to a space and a place that is just not a good space or place for you. We're not saying you have to cut them out of your lives completely, and there may be one or two that actually might need to just get the and that is what it is. Um, but trying to find that balance, as I said earlier, and Mina went off the rails with the whole stool thing, but three-legged stool, I think, is an important way to try to figure out how to get some balance in your life. The work hard, the play hard, but then also have that third piece of it, which is the self care of stopping, relaxing, take the time to smell the flowers, um, so that you have time to rejuvenate and recharge yourself, because that's the self-care piece of it. And that
I'm laughing because at this moment I feel a little bit like a hypocrite because I am the block queen. I will block somebody in a moment, and they will stay blocked for a year, 6 months, maybe never.
that's your favorite button on the phone. Block.
Oh no, you started with some foolishness. Block.
Block.
So I mean, I'll block somebody in a minute. So I'm just not gonna. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of people in my life that I've dealt with some crap, or still entertained it because I love them. Their friends, their family, their love, whatever. I've dealt with it and did not
Mhm,
block them. But there's
mhm.
some people, I'll block you in a minute. Don't mess with me. I'll block
Gotta
you.
do, yeah, and that's about there could be boundaries that they're crossing.
That's my
It's
boundary.
self-care. It's
Yeah.
many other things that we talk about, and that's what you need to do for your own personal
I'm not gonna
self-care and
entertain it.
self-fulfillment, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But if you've been foolish and you still around, I don't even know why. Because I am the block queen. Must be
Hey,
something special about you.
uh, no comment.
Lucky.
Lucky. That's I'll go with that. We'll call it lucky. Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
So what final thoughts do you have before we wrap up
Yeah.
for today?
Moderation is balance, and moderation is what it is, but it's about your life satisfaction. You only live once, YOLO. And you're not going to be able to come back and live it again. So live it good now. Get that balance so you can enjoy life.
Mhm.
being in a
Mhm.
stressed state all the time is not fun. And sometimes
Correct.
you don't even know you're in that state.
Right.
You really have to pay attention to the signals that your body's giving you. And I only
Mhm.
speak this because I know it from experience
Mhm.
that your body will show you that you are stressed and you will have to take that break and, settle yourself down. But yeah, live life to satisfaction with balance.
With balance. Yeah. Yeah. That is the message that we wanted to bring to the table today. Live your life. We're not saying don't. Definitely live your life, but try to live it in a way where things are a little bit more moderated and also some
Mhm.
balance. Try to keep things in perspective and some checks and some balances,
Yeah,
uh, because that's where you're gonna. We feel be able to achieve the greatest self fulfillment in your life by having some balance and some perspective in your life.
right.
Uh, that's all I have, unless you have other things you want to
Uh,
share today.
yes, please go to our Instagram and like us or follow us. And then please go to our YouTube and subscribe, listen, share. But really, the YouTube and the Instagram are really important. We have a challenge right now we've got for ourselves is to get to 100 on YouTube. But um, the I'm sorry, 100 on Instagram, but the YouTube is always there. We've been trying to build our YouTube, and we need some subscribes there and people
Absolutely.
to watch.
Yep. Be sure to do that. Join us there.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I think that's it. We're going to wrap up
Yeah.
for this VOV Live, and we
Thank
will
you.
see you on Tuesday for the next VOV Unscripted. We
Yep.
do not have an official title yet, but we will figure something out
Well, we're
between
gonna
now
do
and then.
encore there.
So we want to do an encore
Yeah,
on
because I'm
boundaries.
traveling. I'll be on the plane
Sounds good. We'll do that. Encore on
then.
boundaries.
Yeah.
And then again, thank you everyone. We couldn't appreciate it anymore. Your support, your ongoing support, really matters to us. And hopefully, you find value in what we do and what we're going to continue to keep doing. We're going to stay in this vein because, as Mina and I talk about all the time, this is our way of giving back, and we're going to keep this train moving forward. So get on board, come along for the ride. I think we'll all be happy and fulfilled and satisfied with that.
Yeah, we'll try.
That's it.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Everyone take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, Mina.
You
You're
too.
allowed to have 2 pieces of dessert. That's it.
I'm not gonna go crazy with the dessert. It's just not
Oh,
worth
oh,
it.
well, I'll talk soon and travel
Okay.
safe.
Take
Right.
care.
Take care, everyone.
Aloha.